This is Keep On Cooking, a podcast for people who love cookbooks and want to know more about the authors. It's also a great place to get a weekly dose of culinary inspiration to keep things pumping in the kitchen. So grab a cookbook and keep on cooking. I'm Dustin Harder, and this is Keep On Cooking. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Keep On Cooking, the only podcast dedicated to plant-based cookbooks. I'm your host, Dustin Harder, and he's not lazy. He's just on energy-saving mode. Please welcome my sidecar, Sally, David Rossetti. How you doing, Mr. Rossetti? Gooped.
I'm on energy saving mode.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna give me a slow hello. How'd you do?
How do you do? No,
Babe,
just kidding.
What do you want to have for dinner tonight?
I don't know.
I'm hungry.
I know. And here we are recording.
I know. I think I'm gonna make pasta.
I mean,
But I was hoping
the weekend comes and we always are
No,
like,
this is bad. It was our birthday week, and
know.
I've just been eating. I don't think I've been eating garbage, but I've certainly been indulgent. Though I did not make us a whole cake this year, which I almost always do. And listen,
always do.
it's not about being indulgent this week. It's about coming off of that hernia surgery and me
Oof.
eating whatever I wanted to eat for a while. And now I'm back in my fitness gig. I got that going on, but I cannot get my nutrients in check, y'all. I'm just like turning, but also Valentine. Oh my goodness. So we need to make like a pact with each other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's too much chocolate in this house in February. You guys, chocolate is so good.
It's so delicious.
Chocolate is like so good.
And those cinnamon hearts I got are probably my
From what?
favorite.
What's the brand? Tell the folks.
Chomp chocolate.
Cinnamon heart.
Cinnamon hearts. I got on Instagram. Actually, Natalie Slater, friend of the pod, of Big
Vosges. Is that right?
Well, no, but I'm saying I saw her. She had the cinnamon hearts from Chomp. And I immediately, because I love chocolate and I love cinnamon, so I was like, well, this is going to win.
Chocolate.
And I went to Chomp Chocolate and it was sold out. So I was like really bummed. But I saw like randomly, they were like, we have more in stock. And it was like, there were 2 and I like bought them. And then I bought some for you and then some for me again.
You did. So, yeah, so yummy. So delicious.
But Chomp Chocolate, check it out.
And I was talking about Natalie, and you said Natalie, and I immediately thought,
yes.
Vosges. Is it Vosges?
Yes,
is that right?
Vosges.
She sent us these delicious truffles from Vosges chocolate.
Someone might say delicious.
Delicious from Vosges. In Shikukus. Didn't work.
I like it.
Anyways, let's get through this so that you can make me some dinner.
Let's do it.
Sound good? This week we are taking a closer look at Native American indigenous foods with the book Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky: Modern Plant-Based Recipes Using Native American Ingredients by Lois Ellen Frank.
Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky celebrates 8 important plants Native Americans introduced to the rest of the world: corn, beans, squash, chili, tomato, potato. It's just fun to say. Vanilla, exactly. Vanilla and cacao, also fun to say.
Yes.
And it has more than 100 recipes.
400.
100 recipes.
This book has more than 400 recipes. More than 100 recipes. I got to tell y'all. So I'm working with the Grand Hyatt in DC. I do every year as we're gearing up for our annual conference, the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, put on by PCRM every year. And we're featuring Native American indigenous foods for our Friday night dinner. And it's just really exciting. We're going over different menus and talking to different chefs and trying to pull it together. So it's been cool to read this book. It's awesome to start working on that menu and have different chefs from who work with Native American cuisine, sort of just putting different ideas out there and trying new things. So I'm very excited for that. You should check out Registration's open for the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine. We're going to have this fantastic Friday night dinner and a healthy hospital chef challenge, a live cooking competition hosted by yours truly on Thursday evening, August 15th. But anyways, so check it out if you get a chance, pcrm.org/ICNM. All the information is there, including the information about the Friday night dinner. So let's talk about this. This book, Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky, was written by Lois Ellen Frank. She is a Santa Fe, New Mexico-based chef, author, a native foods historian, culinary anthropologist, educator, photographer, organic gardener, and a James Beard award-winning cookbook author for her book, Foods of the Southwest Indian Nations.
Yeah, she is the chef, owner of Red Mesa Cuisine, LLC, a catering company specializing in indigenous cuisine and cultural education, with a modern twist where she cooks alongside Native American chef Walter Whitewater. Dr. Frank has spent over 30 years documenting and working with the foods and lifeways of Native American communities in the Southwest.
In 2020, she was the recipient of the Local Hero Ola Award, which recognizes an exceptional individual for the work they do to create healthy, innovative, vibrant, and resilient local sustainable food systems in New Mexico. Here she is to tell us more about her latest contribution to the literary landscape. It's Lois Ellen Frank. She's on a mission to educate people on the history of Native American cuisine and the contributions Native peoples have given to some of the foods we eat every day. Please welcome to the podcast, Chef Lois Ellen Frank. Thank you for being here, Lois.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to see you. And we're going to start things off with the icebreaker question. You appear to be a person who has turned many of their passions into their profession, and I can relate with that certainly. But is there anything you do just for fun? Do you have a favorite hobby, or is there a new hobby you would like to pick up in the near future? Anything like that?
Oh, there's always things that you want to do. Yeah. I think where we are right now in time, one of my biggest things that I want to focus on is to treasure and enjoy each day as if it was my last, not knowing what is in store, and savor the moments, the beautiful landscape where I live, my cats, which I love,
Mm-hmm.
and to be with family and friends more. I've been very work focused my whole life. And so one of the big New Year's resolutions for me this year is to focus on joy. And of course, that is centered around family and friends.
I love that. I'm very much the same. And even when I think I'm doing something for fun, sometimes I turn it into work. I'm like, well, great. How can we make this, this sort of thing? But so for me in the new year, actually, my goal is like you say, there's always something, but it's to read more. I always get a book and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I look at a part of it and kind of put it down and I'm like, no, I'm going to actually start to read the book, start to finish now. So I'm trying to do one book a month and commit to that one full book a month. And I've already started rolling along. So I have faith in both of us. We will get more joy in this new year. So I'm proud of us for making that step away from work into joy. And we're here to chat about your new book, Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky, Modern Plant-Based Recipes using Native American ingredients. But this is not your first book. Your book, Foods of the Southwest Indian Nations, featuring traditional and contemporary recipes, won the James Beard Award in the Americana category in 2003. And you've worked with world-renowned chefs, scientists, academics, and collaborated with them to publish many culinary posters, articles, and cookbooks, and you've worked with national and international advertising agency as well as many editorial clients as a chef and photographer. In short, you have a long and varied food career. But I have to ask you, can you share a little bit about with us when you became focused on cooking as a profession, and when did it go plant-based for you?
So, it's been an interesting migration, and we did make a real conscious decision about being plant-based. I think because I work a lot in Native communities and I work with community health representatives, diabetes educators, doctors, nurses. What we're seeing, and we saw this in Native communities certainly during COVID. So post-COVID, more and more people want to learn how to cook plants. So for that term, I'm going to call it plant forward.
Mhm.
So plant forward doesn't necessarily mean 100% plant-based.
Sure.
Just means that you're starting on a journey to incorporate more plants into your diet. My philosophy or my hypothesis is, as you incorporate more plants into your diet and you begin to feel better and the weight comes down, then you want to incorporate more. And that leads on the path to either 100% or 80% or 90%, whatever people decide. We model things after a nativore diet. So there's all these, different vores, right?
Right. Of course. All the
Herbivore,
vores. Yeah.
omnivore. So we're going to use the term nativore. And nativore means, what did the ancestors do? Well, they ate about 80 to 90% plants, nuts, fruits, cultivars, wild foods, and then they hunted. But what they hunted was a small percentage of the diet, because when you think about a tribe and wild animals running away, let's say you only got one and you have a 30-person tribe, everybody's eating a small amount. And then you have to wait till the hunters go back out and get another sacrifice, or there's a relationship in Native ideology about an animal person relationship. And so there was very little meat. And what did they eat? Once, I don't even think it was once a day. I think it might have been once every several days, once a week, and in lean areas, maybe once a month.
Yeah. The idea of plant forward is so great too, because you're really meeting people where they're at.
Right. And so we decided that we see that people want to eat plants. They do. But let's say they grew up with a mom that only cooked green beans until they weren't green anymore. That's all they know, right? I mean, we can, I'm going to give away my age, but, corn in a can or green beans cooked that were green. They were green.
Yeah.
And they're not green anymore. They're like this sage.
Yeah, exactly.
Green,
Yeah.
not even olive green, like a lighter than that.
Faded green.
Faded green. Okay.
Yep.
So when we started doing grocery store tours and realizing, what is this? What is this? What is this? We really wanted to incorporate foods and plants. And, when I think about this, a 300-page book, we've only scratched the surface.
Yes,
there are so many more plants that people could do, but we wanted to keep very native focused, very Southwest focused, and start there. Maybe there's another book in the future. I don't know. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
But we wanted to go 100% plant-based. And, I will say that when we've started to do this in Native communities, one of the big surprises was most Native Americans, many, are lactose intolerant. So they don't do well with dairy. Dairy's not in their ancestral food or ancestral DNA. And we do a coconut milk whipped cream. And out of left field, people have gone totally crazy for the coconut whipped cream on whatever, vegan or plant-based dessert we're doing, because it's always given them problems post eating. And now they can eat the coconut whipped cream. We're just taking cans of coconut milk and refrigerating them and taking the solidified and adding a little delicious vanilla bean or cinnamon, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a huge hit. People can't get enough. So it took us by surprise, but we had to make a conscious decision. Either the book has meat in it, or the book has dairy in it, or the book is 100% plant-based. And I feel good. Now, I'm going to also clarify that there are occasions. So I can't claim to be a vegan. I follow the nativore. So if I go to a ceremony and someone has sacrificed an animal for that ceremony, it causes more damage to not eat a little bit than it does to eat some. It's a ceremonial respect thing. So then I go back to my happy plants and my happy plant diet. But I have found that in ceremonial situations, it's much easier and more respectful to the host to just have a little of whatever it is. So if someone sacrificed a deer or an elk or a bison, then I do participate in a minimal capacity to say thank you to them and to the animal spirit for giving itself for others to live. I feel the best when I eat, delicious stews with green chili and tomato and potato and mushrooms. I love mushrooms. So I'm on a mushroom craze right now.
Yes.
One of my students from IAI, from my indigenous food class, is now a mushroom grower. And I am in mushroom heaven. So I've got blue oysters and lion's mane and all these different.
Oh, you've got the variety.
I'm
Yes,
on a
you're into it. Yeah.
mushroom oyster, chanterelles. Oh, we've just been in mushroom heaven. The shiitakes,
Yeah.
I love mushrooms. They're to me very meaty. That satisfies that
Sure.
textural, that it has a very textural sensation that
Yep. And very hearty. Yeah.
umami. They're very hearty.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's, but we've started to incorporate more and more and more and more and more plants. We promote that with our clients, and we notice that people drop their weight, they feel good. It's just been a wonderful transition and experience. And I'm so happy that we decided to go 100% plant-based, and people are receiving it. We're getting people to go plant forward, and that's a good thing.
I love it. I love it. And this book is chock full of educational information. You've written a very thorough introduction covering the foods the Native peoples gave the world, a timeline of Native American cuisine, and you talk about reclaiming indigenous foods. You honor the sacred list of what you refer to as the magic 8 ingredients, which are corn, beans, squash, chilies, tomatoes, potatoes, vanilla, and cacao. You enlighten the reader with a historical, culinary, nutritional, and cultural journey sort of through the complex genealogy of these ingredients. And most people know and most people love these ingredients, but very few people understand the history of these ingredients. Can you talk a bit about the magic 8 ingredients and where did they come from?
So yeah, they're all indigenous to the Americas. So vanilla and cacao are not indigenous to the Southwest, nor is potatoes. Although potatoes migrated northward, and our farmers market, we have local farmers now growing out amazing fingerling and delicious blues and reds, and but their origin is with the Inca in Bolivia and Peru, and then vanilla and cacao. What's fascinating, and I think the one ingredient I learned the most of was cacao. I had never seen fresh cacao. We have found a wonderful cacao farm in Belize with a wonderful husband and wife native combo that they do tours now, ecotourism, where you can go down and harvest the cacao and process it and really understand what goes into it. But he was recently up here with Clayton Brascopy, who I talk about in the cookbook as well, who started the Native American Farmers Association. And in his lineage, he's Mayan, in his ideological approach, cacao is very sacred. And we do know that cacao or chocolate, through the marker theobromine by scientists at UNM in 2009, were found in these cylinders in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. And when they radiocarbon dated that one ingredient, they found that it was about between 1,000 and 1,500, let's say 1,250 years old. So chocolate was in Chaco Canyon 1,250 years ago, give or take.
Yeah.
And so Julio from Belize, who's Mayan, came and he went to Chaco Canyon and made an offering to his ancestors that came here before him. And when they were telling me this story, it was just not only heartwarming, I actually cried.
Sure.
Because we see now this full circle of the ancestors coming, and now this new generation coming in and honoring this ingredient and coming here and making an offering to the spirits that were here before him. And it's just, to me, fulfilling and heartwarming. And so the cacao and the chocolate story for me is very close to home because I've seen the history. I've tried it in its raw state. I fermented it for 5 days. We roasted it. We distinguish between cocoa and cacao, and we do see more and more vegans and plant-based folks, very health orientated, going in the direction of cacao because
Sure.
anything with cocoa will have some sort of fat, whether
Mhm.
that's a milk solid fat or a cocoa butter. So people are moving away from those types of chocolate and moving more into the realm of the pure, which is much more native cacao. And so all of these ingredients, corn to me is the essence of life. So that's one of my favorite. That's the first chapter in the book. But all of them are so special and so sacred and amazing to
Yeah, that's really the beautiful part about the book, how each chapter opens with one of those ingredients and you're able to go into it in depth and tell us all about it. So it must have been just a great experience after all these years you've been doing all this work and educating to be able to put that in a book, right? To be able to share that.
Yeah, and I will say, Dr. Neil Bernard, I met him early on. Oh gosh, it has to be going on 15 years now. And when he first came out and used the term vegan, I didn't quite, I understood vegetarian or lacto-vegetarian, but
Mhm.
I didn't understand vegan meant no byproducts of animals, not even honey for the strict vegans,
Sure.
although some vegans are flexi-vegans, they will do honey, but technically no, right? And so it's really been an interesting journey for me to learn what does 100% plant-based mean? How do I feel on a diet that is 100% plant-based, except for those ceremonial occasions?
Mhm.
And I just had my annual exam, and I have to say, my doctor's like, "See you in a year." I mean, my
Nice.
A1C is good. My everything's within this normal range. And as you age, these are all concerns.
Yeah.
And I will say that as we watch people drop their weight and get off their meds, I will state, definitively that as you change your diet, you do have to work with health professionals because if you are on any meds that are lowering your blood sugar or your blood pressure or your cholesterol, when you change your diet, you really no longer need these drugs. And so you will have to work with a health
Mhm.
professional to to do those. So it's not something you want to do on your own. And you do want to do it, I think, in increments.
Right.
I've noticed that because I understand the beauty and deliciousness of a perfectly ripe peach to me, which is um, almost a sexual experience, to be honest, to
Sure.
eat a perfectly farmer's market peach with the juice and the
Yeah.
natural sugar. I no longer need or want any foods with additional sugar.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm teaching some of these communities and through this cookbook, teaching people that when you make the berry compote, if you're going to use agave, we've started to say optional because
Mhm.
as you get healthier and as your
Yeah.
diet goes, you don't even want the agave. You just want to taste whatever the natural flavor of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
That's such a good point to make. You do lose that sort of craving for it, right?
so it's an evolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you get healthier, as you change your diet. And then you're like, why would I add meat to this? It's so
Right.
good the way it is.
Yeah.
And so again, these changes come over time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more people are like, "Ooh, will you make that? Will you make that?"
Yes,
Uh,
yes, which is always the best compliment, and you are like, "Absolutely, I will show up at the party with this for everyone. We will have more and more." Well, it has to be mentioned that the majority of the photos in this book were taken by you. With your many talents, photographer is added to the list, and the photos shine in this book. Everyone, I want you to know, listeners, you can see Lois's photography here in this book, but also see more of her stunning images at loisphotography.com. I was peeking through there yesterday. Such good stuff.
I did mostly the food photos, and one of
Yes.
my very best friends that I've sort of grew up with career wise. We both went to Brooks in the um, early on in our careers. And she did the people and the portraits of me and the farm shots. And then
Oh,
she
great.
was the digital expert that helped because when you think about all these photos, it's a massive amount of
Yes.
information to catalog and organize. And so I can't take credit alone. It really took a team. And I think Walter and I are very team focused. So we had this great team of, recipe, Marianne Sundquist, and we had Daphne Hogart, who was in charge of all the photography, and Walter, who was the culinary advisor. He did a lot of tasting and all the food styling in the photographs, me with the vision, and then Terry Graves helped us with props and all of this. So it really was this wonderful team. And I think that's why the book's so beautiful, because it was just this incredible team.
That's fantastic, and how fun to collaborate on all of it too, because when you're in those moments, sometimes it can be isolating when you're writing a book or when you're doing the photos. So to be able to bounce off of people and style things together and cook together, even, cooking together is just fun, but then you get to like photograph it all together. That's great. So
Well, and we planned it so that each day, so we'd make recipes and then photograph them. Either that was the food we ate that day, or that was
yeah,
the food we ate the next day. So
perfect.
every photograph, I will say, in this cookbook, we ate it.
Yes, yes, even better. So
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Well, I'm already hungry. Let's get more hungry. Let's dig into the recipes here. We start off with the Magic 8. It's every chapter, starting off with corn. You have offerings in here to guide the home cook in making white corn tortillas from scratch, blue corn tortillas, and gluten-free blue cornbread. There's a hominy harvest stew, grilled sweet corn, Three Sisters tamale with green chile, Three Sisters rolled enchiladas, corn pudding parfait, sweet corn soup with chipotle paint. Lots of variety in here. But what's one of your favorites from the corn chapter?
Oh, well, I love the Native American corn pudding parfait,
Mm,
because that can be eaten warm, it can be eaten cold, or my students at IAI actually put it, so you can't put it in glass. It's harder in glass to put in the freezer. But if you did a hard plastic cup, or something that you could put in the freezer, they froze it and then it became like an ice cream.
oh, nice.
Oh, it was so good. So
Genius.
that's one of my favorites. I love the Three Sisters tamale with green chili. That is another favorite. I think the one that really sort of took me by surprise is based on Walter's family lineage, and that's the Navajo kneel down bread. And that's just fresh corn that's been baked for a really long time in a husk, and it's like a bread. It's amazing. So that really took me, by surprise. And then, just a simple fresh corn salad, taking fresh
Yeah.
corn once a year and slicing it and doing wild greens or arugula
Mm,
with it. That is a very seasonal. And I really try and eat seasonal. Like right now, I'm into the soups and the stews and the beans, and I've got frozen tamales. So, the Three Sisters tamales are resurfacing. I want to use up last year's batch so I can make a new batch. We usually make January, February, tons of tamales and freeze them. Then by the end of the season, when you start a new year, you want to. So, I had tamales for lunch today. I had tamales for dinner the other night. And
oh, delicious. Fantastic. I'm jealous.
yeah,
Oh,
so
that's so good. Tell me about the blue corn pancakes.
yum. So, pancakes are always made with eggs and buttermilk or milk. And so this is a really nice alternative to that. They've got a lot of flavor. They're soft. They're the perfect blue corn pancake. But the real surprise in that recipe is the pignon butter, because
Yes.
pancakes with melting butter. So this is, wonderful. I always have a little bit of it in my refrigerator, in a little container, pignon nut butter, and it's wonderful. And so the surprise to this is that, when you have pancakes, you have to deprive yourself of something that other people are able to have, and you don't. The pignon nut butter is so good.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, it all sounds so delicious. I love that chapter. Great way to start it off. Beans is the next chapter. And we love ourselves some beans. Beans contain antioxidants that help prevent cell damage and fight disease and aging. They also are a fiber powerhouse and boast other nutrients that benefit the digestive system. If someone picks up this book and they have some beans in their pantry, Lois, what is the first recipe you would tell them to make from this
Well,
chapter?
aside from what you said, so beans are low in fat, high
Yes.
in protein. They really are the perfect food for diabetics as they're transitioning because they fill you up. And so I was actually by some of the folks at PCRM given a t-shirt that says the bean juice queen because I'm always using bean juice, or corn juice, I make my beans juicy so I can skim off some of that juice and use
Yeah.
that for flavor or a stock or whatever.
Sure.
But I think the biggest surprise for me in this, so, I've always been very pinto bean focused and very Southwest focused. We do the trio of hummuses, which is wonderful. And I encourage everyone to try those. So instead of butter on your toast, you could do a little hummus
Oh, nice.
on your toast in the morning, right?
Yes.
But the surprise recipe for me, which is a winter favorite, is the white bean butternut squash and kale. It's
Mm.
got no chili in it. It's a very vegetable-y. I think everybody could make it on a national level. It's just amazingly delicious. And that was a surprise for me because I thought, well, we're in the Southwest, but this one really was a sleeper that I love. And I think, the second most favorite one, which I served this year at Thanksgiving, was the butternut squash soup, but with the chili oil. And so
Okay.
you can drizzle a little chili oil on from a couple of dots to, a whole spoonful. And then you get that sort of earthy, thick, very squashy flavor with a little bit of that chili oil, a little bit of spice. So
A little
that's
pop.
another one. Yeah, a little pop. That's
Oh,
another
that's
one that I
good.
really, and I'm a soup person, but I also
Same.
love just roasting.
Yeah.
The roasted squash or, the kaboosha, roasted kaboosha squash with ginger. I mean, amazing. And, the other real surprise in the squash for me was the pesto. Um,
Great.
we put it with butternut squash, but that pesto could be used with anything. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
another sleeper that has multiple applications.
Yeah, and these are all in the squash chapter, which is your third chapter, right? And there's
Right.
I'm looking at the pumpkin pinion nut cake. That looks yummy to me in there. And we've got the
It
pumpkin
is.
pie with pinion crust too, and spiced pumpkin butter. And Lois, surprise, surprise, I made some of these pumpkin and ginger
Scones! Aren't
scones
the
right
scones good?
here.
Did you eat one yet?
Oh, yes, I did.
Oh,
See, there's only 6 left on the plate, and it makes 8, so of course I ate one right away, and my husband has eaten one already as well. So,
and did you guys like them?
oh, they're delicious. They're
Delicious.
delicious. Love a scone. They came together so easily, and they've got this delicious, cinnamon glaze here on the top too. So a home run in this house for sure.
Oh, good.
And
Yeah.
that takes us into the chiles. So that takes us onward to that. They're the spice of life and one of the most important spices in the world, you tell us. And you explain that they're not a pepper at all, but actually a pungent fruit with spice. Now, why did they become known as a pepper?
It's so interesting. History is so interesting because, it's like that telephone game. It's told from only one perspective. So Columbus accidentally stumbled upon the Americas while looking for India and black pepper. When he found out that the earth was round and there was another continent in the way that he couldn't just get to India, he faced a dilemma. And that dilemma was, do I go back to the queen and tell her that these were faulty maps, that I was lost, or do I just tell her that I found a new kind of pepper and that this new kind of pepper is pimiento de chile or chili pepper? So he chose to tell her he found a new kind of pepper, and with that this spice would revolutionize the world. And once she thought that, there became financing available for other voyages.
Ah, look at that.
And it was the other voyages that brought other parts of the Magic Eight back to Europe and other parts of the world, changing the world.
Yeah.
So chilies became the chili pepper. It's a 500-year-old mistake that is going to be hard to rectify.
Uh-huh.
But technically, they are not, ethnobotanically speaking, in the pepper family. Pepper grows on a tree. It's a seed, doesn't originate here, definitely from India and Asia. And the chilies, which are indigenous, are not a pepper. So, again, this education's happening of what happened in history. And, you have to say that was fairly brilliant on Columbus's part, because had he said, you gave me these maps and they were wrong and I don't know where I was, he would have never been financed to go back.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But he said, I found chili pepper. And they were like, ooh, okay, go get more, go get whatever else you can. And that is this starting of these different voyages and the ingredients being brought. A lot of people say that 1491, 1492, and 1493 were the years that the world began in terms of food, because so much happened so quickly. These ingredients, I mean, imagine not having vanilla or chocolate, and then all of a sudden you have vanilla and cacao, and you can make it into something delectable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I love the way you cover all of that in the front matter of the book too. You really get in depth for the reader. This is one of those books that's great in terms of a cookbook. A lot of people sit down with a cookbook and they'll just look at the recipes and stuff, but this is one you can really dive into and read and get invested in and get an education from. So I certainly appreciate that. I mean, this alone, fascinating, right, everyone? The pepper listeners, are you listening to this?
Well, and I will say that, being an academic with a PhD, I wanted even more.
Of course, right? Yeah.
And my editor took out almost 32,000 words in addition to what I had. So I could have gone even more academic, but they kept reminding me that it's a cookbook and that even with what's in there, I still have over 300 pages. So, but it's a good read. You can lie in bed and read about the history. And
the word count will get you every time, huh? Jeez. Well, you have a variety of chili sauces in here. There's an apple raisin and pecan salad, tricolor coleslaw, green chili herbed rice, poblano stuffed chilies, red chili potato stew, listeners, pinto bean and mushroom rolled enchiladas, poblano cornbread. And I just love the thought of this cornbread already, with the little spice from the poblano paired with the sweetness from the fresh corn. What is the favorite recipe for you from this chapter to use chilies in?
Okay, so the newest sort of favorite is the red chili potato casserole. We took a very traditional red chili sauce made from pods, and we added coconut milk and spices to it. And then we took potatoes and sliced them very thin, almost like you would in an au gratin, right?
Sure.
And then we took the red chili and coconut milk sauce and baked these potatoes. And oh my gosh,
it sounds amazing.
Good. Yeah. That's one of my favorites. But I will say the chili pecans are a great. I make them all the time for salads, for snacks. People go crazy.
Oh yeah, I bet. Just as a snack, I would just dive into those, I'm sure. Tomato chapter is up next. So you talk about the tomatoes not being widely accepted in the Americas originally, that people were suspicious of it and viewed it as poison in Europe. In Europe. Okay. They were suspicious of it and viewed it as poisonous. Tell me more about that.
So, they are in the nightshade family. And, if you think about an heirloom tomato, they are kind of scary looking. They have lots of dents and they're big, and they're like they were also referred to as a love apple. People thought they had aphrodisiac quality.
Okay. All right.
But they were scared. And then, it was ethnic groups like the Italians that said, we're not scared. We're not scared. And they began to incorporate them. And now you can't imagine Italian food without them. So, I think the English resisted the most, probably, or in the British Isles, from the tomato. But now if you go, their traditional breakfast has tomato in it.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah. Well, there's fantastic offerings in here. Just and it's just sort of the stuff you want from a tomato chapter, like an heirloom tomato salad. Speaking of heirloom tomatoes, cherry tomato tart, heirloom tomato sauce, cherry tomato and arugula salad, tomato quinoa salad, and a hearty tomato sauce. Though, if I'm honest, the first thing I'm going to make is Lois's pico de gallo. I mean, I want to put it on everything. You have a great intro in here where you talk about all the things you put it on. It's great for topping almost anything in the book, from the red mesa refried pinto beans recipe in this book to the perfect baked potato with all the fixins. This pico de gallo can liven up any dish, I have no doubt. Potatoes are the next chapter, another favorite and
Yeah.
popular ingredient. I've yet to meet a potato I didn't like. I don't know about you, but this is the next section, and all of the potato recipes in this section, is there one that's been the most popular when you've shared it at Red Mesa or when teaching cooking classes?
I think the biggest surprise for people is that you can use a sweet potato to make a zero fat tamale. So instead of using corn masa, so
Oh,
tamales need some sort of fat, whether that fat is a plant-based fat
sure.
or an animal-based fat. And I haven't eaten an animal-based fat tamale in a long time, but I do still eat them with, like a organic, solidified
Mhm.
uh, palm or vegetable. You can use coconut, although I mostly use coconut for the dessert tamales. But anyway, you can use a baked sweet potato and blend that with the masa instead of the lard or instead of the fat. And fat is
Wow,
fat,
okay.
whether it's plant-based fat or animal fat. Fat is still fat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we have, a movement or a group of some people that are on, no oil, no fat. And this is a really good recipe for that because
Okay.
it has no fat. It's using the sweet potato with the masa to bind it. And then we're using black beans and red chili. And it really is amazing. And I will credit Dr. Neil Bernard for saying, can you bring the fat content down on a tamale? Because, traditional tamales are made with 50% or higher fat ratio,
Sure,
which is
sure.
really, really high. And I think Dr. Barnard is hovering around 10 to 17% fat intake, on a daily basis. And this one has even less than that because it doesn't have any fat. And so
Yeah,
this is a really nice alternative for people wanting to drop weight and still be able to eat something, because it literally, we took the fat out. So
that's great.
yeah, it's very cool.
What would you say is one of the most approachable potato recipes in the potato chapter for you?
The potato and green chili stew, I think
Oh,
that's really
it
easy to make, or the
sounds so
sweet potato
good.
mash, herb roasted potatoes we cook all the time. We serve that as a side with almost everything.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there again, I love pico de gallo salsa with my
put
herb
it
roasted
on there.
potatoes, but,
Yeah.
anyway, so
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
those are pretty easy to make.
That's great. We got roasted sweet potatoes two ways, potato and green chili tacos, potato and bean burritos, sweet potato and carrot soup, potato and green chili stew, and
That's an
sweet
easy one, easy to
the
do.
stew.
Yeah.
I love a stew too. It's so nice to just put on the stove and let it go. And we've got sweet
Baked
potato, kale,
potato.
and rice potato. What's that?
The baked potato with all the fixings. Again, easy,
Yeah.
easy peasy, right? You just bake a potato, and then the hardest thing to make are the fixings. But once you make the fixings, then you can eat them for days.
Yeah, it's like having just like a little salad bar, only it's a potato bar in your fridge, essentially. Just keep the fixins on hand. So many great options for the potato lover in this section. The next one we come up on is vanilla. Tell us a little bit about this prized spice.
So, there are many differing theories or stories, but one of my students chose vanilla as his final paper in my indigenous food class and researched the indigenous people of Mexico and how vanilla came to be. And one of the stories with vanilla is that one of the mortals, or one of the gods, fell in love with a mortal. And that's a big no-no. And in order for them, they had to make a choice because they had to become earth-based, but they couldn't be human. And so the god, she chose to become the essence of vanilla to please her lover, because she knew she could never be with him. And so, it's sort of a heart heart-wrenching heart story, but vanilla is fascinating in that it's the smallest seed in the world, number one. Number two, the vanilla bean is the seed pod of the orchid. It's an orchid that's only fertile for a 4 to 24 hour period. And there's a special bee that lives where vanilla originated that knows when vanilla is fertile, and it knows to go in and pollinate the vanilla between that 4 to 24 hour period. Because if you miss the period, it doesn't fertilize. And to me, this is just a fascinating indigenous story, because when vanilla was transplanted, like let's say Tahiti or Indonesia or Madagascar, where a lot of vanilla is produced today, they don't have the bee. And so they have to hand pollinate the vanilla with a little stick that represents either the hummingbird or the bee. And that's why vanilla is so expensive, is because that hand pollination process is very laborious.
Okay.
So to this day, if you're not getting, Mexican vanilla that's grown in its ancestral homeland with this indigenous bee, it's hand pollinated vanilla. And as you know, vanilla is really expensive if you're buying real vanilla.
Yeah.
It is one of the most popular ingredients where they've been able in the lab to make imitation vanilla. I'm not a big fan of that.
Sure.
I'd rather save money somewhere else
Yeah.
and buy the real vanilla, but that's just me if you can afford it. But I don't think the imitation has that same flavor, and I love vanilla. So I like using the vanilla bean or extracting the bean, although the extract's still pretty good. But that's the story of vanilla. So it's fairly amazing. And I think it's an essence that is heavenly, just to smell it. The real vanilla, not the essence of fake vanilla, right?
Right. The essence of extract, essentially. You're not saying that one. You're saying pure vanilla.
Pure vanilla.
Absolutely. That's fascinating too. And naturally, this chapter is home to several items that are on the sweeter side because it has that essence that you speak of, right? What is something the home cook would make from this book looking to impress their guest when they bring a dessert to the table from this chapter?
So the baked berry vanilla crisp, easy, very impressive. Oh my gosh. I do the vanilla peach sauce all the time because I like to serve that. But the bread pudding is a very surprising sleeper that is made with vanilla and beautiful peaches and dried fruits. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But, seasonally, I think one of the easiest things to do is the vanilla grilled peaches, because it has a little prickly pear. You just rub a little of that vanilla and then grill it. And I don't know if anybody's ever had a grilled peach, but they're really, really delicious. And we just do a little choke cherry sauce and some pinon nuts on the plate. You could look at the photo, but really nice. But the one that was, again, a sleeper that what we realized is that you could take it with you for lunch or an energy burst are the skillet cakes.
I was looking at that one. Yeah.
Skillet cakes.
Yeah,
so those will last for several days. And those are these little, almost like power bars, even though they're round. And you feel so energized when you eat them. They're really good.
That's great. We're featuring 2 Magic 8 here, right? It's called the vanilla and cacao sunflower skillet cakes, right?
You can make them either way. They're good.
I'm intrigued by the dried fruit and vanilla dessert tamales. I just love dessert tamales, and and dried fruit and vanilla. I mean, delicious. I mean, I'm into
thing
that.
about tamales is, it is a production. It is an ordeal.
Right.
So you do want to get, you and your partner, or you and your family. You want more than just yourself, because it's a very social event. And then you want to make enough. Everybody gets to freeze a dozen or 2 dozen. So you want to make, 100 tamales in a day and divide them up. Right. So it's a production, but once you have that production, then they're in the freezer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you set the time aside for it and do it. I have my friend Linda. She comes over. We make them together. We have a morning into the afternoon together. She takes them with her. I put some. But it's a nice time for us to get together. It's a fun experience to make
Correct.
them too. And as you're showing in the book, there's so many different things you can do with them. So it's very
Right.
fun like that. You top things off in this chapter with a beverage, vanilla, lavender, and lemon spritzer, which sounds so refreshing and delicious. And that takes us into cacao, the
Right.
final of the magic 8 ingredients. You talked about this in the beginning, and it was so fascinating to hear you talk about it and read about it in the book. The white pulp on the inside and the seeds, I never knew about that. And you've got the pictures in the book too,
Right.
so it really sort of dives into cacao a little bit more even, and it's just so interesting to learn about it. And this chapter, your favorite recipe in this. So what's your favorite thing to make with cacao?
Okay. The dark chocolate torte, which is really rich. So that's like a once, you know, once or twice a year,
Yep,
decadent,
sure.
decadent.
Yes.
What I make on a regular basis is the chocolate pignon cake all the
Ah,
time.
great.
But I think, again, the sleeper is the chocolate, coconut, and dried cherry tamale because
Mm,
everything is in the masa. And so
yeah.
you open it up and you eat this like, oh my gosh, chocolate masa. It's just delicious. But, a very easy, kind of inexpensive one is the grilled pineapple with the dark chocolate.
Oh,
So
sign
we
me
do that
up.
a lot. Yeah. For massive groups where you just grill the pineapple and then drizzle and, you know, the chocolate kind of hardens and you have these beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sign me up for that. And there's a mole sauce in here,
I
so you
know.
can use that on mole
Yeah.
enchiladas with the mushrooms and potatoes,
Yeah.
cacao spice rub. You
Yeah.
got chocolate dipped strawberries in here, a chocolate sauce,
Yeah.
and then we've got a straightforward chocolate nice cream even. So you really cover a lot of bases here with the cacao. It's so good.
So
And you
I don't
close.
know if your viewers know or listeners, but nice cream is the bananas, and I just froze some before this podcast today. You let your bananas ripen, and they get really really ripe, and they're really really sweet. And instead of throwing them out, you put them in a bag and label them in the freezer, and then that's what you grind up with the chocolate or the peanut
Yeah.
butter. I call the chocolate peanut butter nice cream chunky monkey, because I
Yeah.
love, you know, which other incarnations, other chefs and authors have done their versions of that. But, I think the nice cream is a really nice non-dairy, inexpensive way to do a frozen dessert. You could either do it in like a Vitamix blender,
Yeah.
or I use a Cuisine or a food processor.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice dessert from bananas that have gotten overly ripe.
Yeah, it is a really great dessert. It's a nice guilt-free dessert to have too. A good sweet treat to fix that craving when you have it. You close the recipes out with a chapter on pantry staples, everything from chili garlic oil and cooked pumpkin puree to vegetable broth and stock to basic cooked beans and coconut whipped cream. That delicious, luscious
There it is.
coconut whipped cream we already chatted about. What's a staple in this chapter you find you have on hand most often?
Um, oh gosh. Well, I always have ash. I always make blackened garlic. That's a daily activity pretty much for me as a chef. We use a lot of blackened corn, and anytime I use a chili, it's going to be fire roasted as opposed to like broiled. So we use that method a lot. But I always seem to have broth or stock in my freezer
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And, a lot of times I'm making that either blue corn or no fry bread to accompany the soups and the stews. So use a lot. And, these didn't have a home. And that's why we decided to do a pantry staple section. They could have
Good.
been tagged onto another recipe, but it's really nice having them in their own place
Yeah.
where you can go and just learn how to cook hominy or make ash or do the choke cherry. I do choke cherry once a year. I harvest and then we process and then we make the syrup. So you make the juice and then you make the syrup. So
Wow. And look at, they all have a home in their chapter now, so that's good. They've earned it. They've earned that home. You close the book with a source guide for purchasing native foods, in addition to a big bibliography for us to continue our education. And Lois, this is the book brag section of the podcast. What is something you're most proud of when it comes to seed to plate, soil to sky?
I'm really proud that I had the perfect team to create this book. I feel very blessed that we all were able to work together, that we produced a beautiful book with beautiful photographs. And I think, my wish and my want is to see more people eat more plants
Yeah.
and for more people to become happy and healthy and well, not only in Native communities, all ages, all colors, all people. I think one of the things I say in the beginning is one of the medicine elders from one of the pueblos, Joseph Toledo, um, says that we're all earth people, we're all earth citizens. And in order for there to be 7 generations, in order for there to be a future, we all need to take responsibility. I think Chef Walter and I like to say that everyone's indigenous to the earth. And when you identify with being an indigenous being to the only planet, the only mother that we have, then you have to take care of her. And we have to do it collectively together. We use the analogy of the river. So if I'm a community on the river and I'm taking care of the river, but my neighbors to the north of me and my neighbors to the south of me are polluting, do I make a difference? And the answer is no. It has to be all colors, all people, all ages coming together and making conscious decisions. The earth can't sustain the way it is. And the way animals are raised and the way that the systems are set up, they need to change. And we need to change those systems one by one by one. And it was really interesting because we did an event recently up at the Upaya Zen Center. And this is a community that's new to me that I've never really worked with. And one of the Zen Buddhists said, we take vows as a Zen Buddhist. And he's talking in his own voice, right? So I'm saying that when we take these vows, when we decide to work in the kitchen, we have to break those vows, because one of the vows is to not kill anything. And even eating a plant, you're still taking the plant. You're still taking the life of the plant, and it's nourishing you. And so no matter what you eat, it is giving itself to you so that you might live. And I think, when we can bring and enter that sacredness into how we approach zero waste, less packaging, eating more plants, then we start to collectively make a difference. And those are the indigenous partnerships. And that's the beautiful foreword that was written by Dr. Melissa Nelson and the Cultural Conservancy and the work they're doing. So what am I most proud of? I'm the most proud of being able to take all of this and bring it to people and offer it to them with the hopes that they can take it a step further, that they can pass it on a generation, that we can sustain each other and the earth for a future for all of us.
Yes, yes. And no doubt people will take it a step further when they pick up their copy of this beautiful book, Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky. That is the book, everybody. Lois, I can't thank you enough for expanding on some of the recipes. Are you ready for your rapid fire round of questions?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Number 1, favorite spice to cook with?
Chile.
Yes. Favorite outdoor activity?
Walking in nature, digging in the ground, gardening. I love
Very
digging. I love
good.
digging.
Yes. If you could pick up a certain skill instantly, what would it be?
Oh, so I don't know if it's a skill, but if I were going to get one more degree, I would
Yes.
get a degree in nutrition and dietitian, and I would become a nutritious and dietitian. So not only could I be a chef, I could work with my clients on their diet, and so that would be one more degree I would do if I was ever going to go back to school.
I love that. What is your must-have tool in the kitchen?
Wooden spoons.
Great, great. Favorite type of bean?
Oh, Anasazi and Tepparies.
Okay, and favorite? I've never heard of those beans. Say them again for me.
The Anasazi bean, which is a cousin to the pinto, it's an heirloom bean. And the
Okay.
Tepary, which are the really, really small ones, which make a great hummus.
Oh, fantastic. What's your favorite way to cook corn?
Every way that you can.
All right, I love that. Favorite way to prepare a potato?
I really like it prepared thinly sliced with the red chili and coconut milk sauce.
I mean, if everyone's not getting off of here and buying this book immediately and making that, because I know right now I'm like, okay, I gotta go so I can make that right now. It just sounds so good. If you could be an animal, what would you be and why?
I, my my totem or animal spirit has always been a red-tailed hawk.
Okay.
And it would be so that I could soar high enough to see what's going on and all the beautiful details below. So it's always been, uh, and so whenever I see them, I know I'm on the right road or I know I'm doing the right thing because they present themselves to me when I'm living in a good way in accordance with nature. So red tail.
Great. And what dish did you make last? What's the last thing you made?
Um, uh, the green chili potato stew.
Okay, okay.
I
What
think.
what if you would have said that potato coconut, what is it? Chili potato
Oh, the
coconut?
casserole, that was fairly recent too, but
How funny. What if you were
yes.
like, actually, I just made that this afternoon. A place you want to visit that you haven't been to yet.
Oh, I have a list. So I'd love to see, Rapa Nui. I'd love to see Easter Island. I'd love to see, Australia and New Zealand. And, there are still some sacred sites, standing stones in, the British Isles that I'd like to see.
That's great. You did it. That's your rapid fire. Congratulations. Well done. Lois, please let everyone know where they can find you on social media and the internet, please.
So I am on social media both personally as a chef, Lois Ellen Frank on Facebook, but Red Mesa Cuisine seems to have more information on what we're doing and the food we're doing. That's Red Mesa Cuisine. www.redmesacuisine.com is our website. Red Mesa Cuisine is on Facebook, and then Instagram is, oh gosh. So, I'm my niece always kind of yells at me because I grew up a little differently, but how do I see what my, oh, red underscore mesa underscore cuisine
Oh,
would be the
great.
Instagram. And I'm trying to get better and better on
Hey,
Instagram. It's uh,
it's all a process, right? I mean, it takes when it takes and it comes and goes in different, it ebbs and flows. You do it when you do it, you don't when you don't. So we got you on socials. And did you say website as well?
www.redmesacuisine.com.
That's right. So everyone be sure to get a copy of Seed to Plate, Soil to Sky, Modern Plant-Based Recipes Using Native American Ingredients everywhere books are sold. You won't be sorry. Got to make that casserole. Lois, it was an honor to meet you and learn more from you today.
Oh,
Thank you for taking the time to be here.
wonderful to meet you too. And thank you for the wonderful podcast that you do. And, for all the people that are already 100% plant-based, kudos. And for those of you that are on your journey, we're all here to support you. And it's just a wonderful journey, and enjoy the journey.
This has been a Muzzy Cat production.